Greetings, fellow dungeon delvers, and welcome to Dorans and Dragons, where we work together to come up with Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition builds for your favorite League of Legends champions. Today we're building Nidalee, the Bestial Huntress. Nidalee's origins are a bit of a mystery. It's unknown how she ended up in the Bestial jungle outside of Shurima, but what we do know is that a mother cougar found Nidalee and saw something worth saving. She adopted Nidalee into her range, which I googled because I didn't know the proper etymology for a group of cougars. Nidalee grew with her adopted family, learning to take advantage of all the utility the jungle has to offer. Not only that, but her time with them also unlocked a hidden magic inside of Nidalee, and she began to learn how to shapeshift into a cougar. At first, it was just a body part or two, but one day her mother was attacked by the Kilash. Nidalee leapt out to strike back and transformed mid-leap into a jungle cat. She slaughtered the first one and transformed back to her human form, snatching up the Vestian spear. The other Kilash fled, and Nidalee leaned down to the dying range mother. As she passed, the rest of the range accepted Nidalee as their new leader, and she made a vow to defend the jungle from the outside world. Before we get started with the build, go ahead and like the video and hit that subscribe button so you're always notified when we release our builds. We'd like to take a minute and thank our awesome patrons over on Patreon who support us every month. Thanks for helping us keep the lights on and the kitty cats fed. If you like our videos and want to support the channel, come join us over on Patreon today for just $1 to get access to our awesome Discord community where we talk League and D&D all day long. Alright, now let's get into it. Here's a quick preview of the build. For race, we're going with Variant Human. Per usual, our stats are going to be determined using the standard array. For our stat priorities, we're going to max Strength and dump Intelligence. We do have a multi-class requirement of 13 in Dexterity and Wisdom. Our leveling path is going to be levels 1 through 8 in Druid, then we'll dip in a Ranger for 5 levels. We'll grab 4 levels of Fighter, and then finish the build as a Ranger. Nidalee's passive, Prowl, is going to be a combination of Deft Explorer for the movement, Favored Foe for marking, and Dread Ambusher for the extra damage on our first target we hit. For Q, Javelin Toss is our spear chucked with Zephyr Strike and Piercer, on top of dueling and thrown weapon fighting. Our W, Bushwhack, is going to come in the form of hunting traps. Her E, Primal Surge, will come from Cure Wounds and Haste. And finally we get our ultimate, Aspect of the Cougar, from wild shaping into a tiger that will flavor as a cougar. All of Nidalee's transformed abilities will be actions performed in your tiger form. For race, we're going with the staple of the channel with Variant Human. Variant Humans get a +1 to 2 ability scores. We'll bump our Strength and Wisdom by 1 for chucking our spear better, and for our knowledge of the forest. We'll pick up a skill proficiency in Stealth, and of course the reason we're all here, the free feat. We're going with Piercer, to give us another +1 to our Strength, and to increase our spear damage. Once per turn we can re-roll our spear's damage die, and whenever we land a crit with our spear, we get to roll an additional damage die. Combining the two, let's say we crit with our spear and we roll a 5 for our initial damage die, and a 6 for our critical damage die. Piercer lets us roll an additional die, but oh no, it's a 1. Piercer will let us take that 1 and re-roll it. If you're subscribed to the channel, it'll land on a 6, but if not, it's going to be another 1 with a sad face emoji on it from me. For background, we're leaning on Nidalee's life in the Bestial jungle with Outlander. Outlanders get skill proficiencies in Athletics and Survival, as well as the Wanderer feat. Wanderer is going to give you an eidetic memory when it comes to terrain, plus you have an uncanny knack for foraging food for you and your companions. For stats, we're balancing the Huntress and the Cougar with the standard array. Roll if you want to, just keep at least a 13 in Dexterity and Wisdom for multi-classing purposes. This might be surprising, but we're starting things off with a 15 in Strength, for spear chucking and carrying your feeding bot lane. Then we'll take Wisdom for our knowledge of the jungle. Dexterity is next to give us some quick movement and a little help in the AC department. Constitution is after that for a little bit of a health bump and her survival skills. And finally we'll have an average Charisma and dump Intelligence. For equipment, we actually have a few things to talk about. First, we'll grab a set of studded leather for her armor. Though she's not wearing much thanks to Riot's interesting design choice, we want to give her a little protection from the jungle. Obviously we'll be using a spear for Nidalee's spear, and our final piece of equipment is our W with hunting traps. You can use an action to set one of these traps, and if a creature steps on it, it has to make a dex save or take 1d4 piercing damage and stop moving. That creature, or one of its allies, can try and make a strength check to remove it, but each time they fail, they deal another piercing damage to that creature. Alrighty, let's kick things off with a level in Druid to work towards our Cougar form. Druids have a D8 hit die and give us proficiency with light and medium armor, shields, and a ton of weapons. We'll also pick up 2 skill proficiencies. We'll get our Mama Cat on with animal handling, and nature is obvious. First level druids learn the Druidic language, which is a series of symbols that only you and other druids can understand. And the final thing druids get is first level spells and cantrips. We're going to pick up the heal from our E with Cure Wounds, which is going to let you heal a creature for 1d8 plus your wisdom mod as an action. We'll action surge this with haste later for the complete effect. Second level druids gain their iconic Wild Shape ability, and choose their druid circle. Wild Shape is going to let you spend your action to transform yourself into a beast. Right now we'll only be able to transform into 1/4 CR beasts, so we'll get an early version of our cougar form with a panther. You'll stay in this form for hours equal to half your druid level, unless you fall unconscious, hit 0 hit points, or outright die. You won't be able to cast haste in this form, but you will be able to keep its effects going on you while you're in it. For our druid circle, we're going with Circle of the Land, specifically Grassland, which is going to give us natural recovery and the attack speed steroid from our E with haste at 5th level. A lot of people are expecting Circle of the Moon here, I'm sure, but there aren't any good versions of Nidalee's cougar form we've gained that make it worth losing haste. If Wizards releases some new large cat monster stat blocks, we may need to revisit this, but until then, land is the best call. Natural recovery is going to let us recover spell slots equal to half our druid level during a short rest once per day. 4th level druids gain the first ability score improvement of the build. As always, we're going to break them all down for you here so you can pick and choose along the way. Most of these are going to be stat improvements, but we do have a feat at the end. At Druid 4, we'll round off our strength and wisdom scores with a point each. At Druid 8, we'll max our strength with 2 more points. At Ranger 4, we'll bump our wisdom 2 points. Then at Fighter 4, we'll max our wisdom with another 2 points. And finally at Ranger 8, we'll pick up the Slasher feat to round off our dexterity and give our cougar form some extra utility on its claw attack. Once per turn, when you hit a creature with slashing damage, you can reduce their speed by 10 feet until the start of your next turn. And when you crit with slashing damage, that creature has disadvantage on all attack rolls until the start of your next turn as well. Level 5 Grassland Druids learn the Haste spell, which is going to be the attack speed buff from our E. As an action, you buff a creature, giving it double speed, plus 2 to their AC, advantage on dex saves, and an extra action on each turn. This extra action can only do a few things, but one of them includes making 1 free weapon attack, so you'll get extra attacks out of it. Keep in mind that when the spell ends, you get super sleepy and can't move or take actions until the start of your next turn. 6th level Land Druids gain Land Stride, letting us ignore non-magical difficult terrain and giving us advantage on saves against the magical kind as well. 8th level Druids get a Wild Shape improvement, giving us access to our CR1 Tiger aspect of the cougar form. I've included a link to the stat block down below so you can take a look. One main feature to keep in mind is your Pounce, which activates on a claw attack you make after walking in a straight line for at least 20 feet. You're going to force a strength save on that creature, and if they fail, they're knocked prone. After that, you can use your bonus action to bite the fallen creature, with advantage since they're prone. When it comes to your Slasher and Piercer feats, these should carry through with you to your Wild Shapes, but you may need to talk to your DM about it because there's no clear rules as written answer, unfortunately. Alrighty, let's switch gears over to levels in Ranger, which actually have a D10 hit die and give us a new skill proficiency. We'll go with Perception to spot threats to our range. Now, thanks to Tasha's, our Rangers are better than ever, giving us Deft Explorer and Favored Foe, both of which are going to work as our passive. Deft Explorer is going to give us Expertise in Survival, doubling our proficiency bonus with it, and at level 6 we'll gain a 5-foot walking speed, and a climbing and swimming speed equal to our walking speed. This does come along with us into Wild Shape, so get ready to become Spider Cougar. Favored Foe is just going to give us a little bit of passive damage, that'll trigger when you hit a creature with an attack roll, letting you mark it and deal an additional 1d4 damage the first time you hit that creature on a subsequent turn. 2nd level Rangers learn a fighting style and unlock their spellcasting. For fighting style, we're going to enhance our spear work with dueling. Now, thanks to the Pantheon video, we learned that dueling and thrown weapon fighting stack, but dueling is the better one to take first by far. Dueling is simple. As long as you're wielding a single melee weapon in one hand, you'll deal +2 damage with it. We'll talk about the interaction with thrown weapon fighting in a bit. We also need to cover our 1st level Ranger spells. Zephyr Strike is going to add some extra oomph to our spears. As a bonus action, you can buff yourself for a minute, preventing opportunity attacks from being provoked and giving yourself the ability to gain advantage on an attack. That attack will deal an extra 1d8 force damage if it hits, and your walking speed increases by 30 feet until the end of that turn. Now the spell lasts for a minute, so as long as you maintain concentration, you can keep the opportunity attack bit regardless of whenever you make the attack. Level 3 Rangers gain Primal Awareness and choose their Ranger archetype. Primal Awareness is yet another Tasha's improvement that replaces Primeval Awareness, which was just silly. This is going to give us the Speak with Animals spell now and the Beast Sense spell at level 5, which both work great as added Nidalee flavor. We learn them as spells but can also cast them once per long rest for free. Now for our Ranger archetype, we're going to prowl through the jungle and decimate our prey with the Gloomstalker. Gloomstalkers get an expanded spell list, Dread Ambusher, and Umbral Sight. Dread Ambusher is going to give us that big initial burst on both our Spear and our Q and Tiger form if you go in that way. First we get to add our Wisdom score to our initiative, and on the first turn of combat we get a 10-foot extra speed boost. And we can make an additional weapon attack as part of our attack action, and if that extra attack hits, it deals 1d8 damage on top. Umbral Sight is going to give us 60 feet of dark vision and allow us to evade creatures who only detect us through their dark vision. Level 5 Rangers get extra attack, letting us throw 2 spears per turn instead of just 1. Well, at least we will once we get some levels in Fighter. Fighters have a d10 hit die as well and give us no new proficiencies. We will get that thrown weapon fighting style though, so let's explain the stacking nature. So you have the bit about being able to draw the weapon as part of the attack to throw it. That's great, except we only have the 1 spear, so it's not going to matter much since it'll always be out. But the other part is that we get to add +2 damage to any ranged attack we make with our spear. Meaning we get the +2 from dueling, and the +2 from thrown weapon fighting, making our final spear damage 1d6 plus 9 just from modifiers. Add in Zephyr Strike, Dread Ambusher, and Favored Foe, and you're going to have a good time. Our final level 1 fighter feature is a self version of our E with Second Wind, which is going to let you use a bonus action to heal yourself 1d10 plus your fighter level once per rest. And so help me, if you forget to use this before you spend hit die on a short rest, I'm going to lock you in an apartment with a crazy cat lady and her thousands of cats. Second level fighters get Action Surge. This is one of the best features in the game, letting you take 1 additional action during your turn once per short rest. The coolest combo I can think of to use Action Surge with is when you're already hasted. Toss a spear from 20 feet away using your haste action, then using your actual action to wild shape into your cougar form, then Action Surge, move 20 feet to gain your pounce attack, then use that bonus action to take your bite attack, assuming your pounce knocks them prone. It works just like our usual combo does in game. Level 3 fighters choose their martial archetype. Since we have a connection to our spear, we're going to be able to summon it back to our hand after we toss it with Eldritch Knight. We'll get some spellcasting to add to our repertoire, but the more important feature here is the weapon bond, which we'll use to bond ourselves to our spear so we can summon it to our hand as a bonus action after we toss it. And we'll head back over to Ranger for our final levels. At Ranger 7, we'll get Iron Mind, giving us proficiency in Charisma saving throws since we already have proficiency in Wisdom and Intelligence saves. Ranger 8 is going to give us Land Stride, which we already get from our Druid levels. Alright, now that we've completed the build, let's see how we did. First, the good. To borrow from a certain Demacian, we have a spear and a tip behind it. And if that's not enough, we can shapeshift into a giant cat and claw and chew through whatever's left. On top of that, we get to max both our wisdom and strength, letting us do some fun things. Now the bad. I really wanted to go Moon Druid for the more powerful wild shapes, but none of them are really worth not getting the haste spell. Also, we're a tad low in the health pool and AC departments. So what'd you think? I've included a link to this build via D&D Beyond in the description below, as well as Amazon links to the books used in this build. If you enjoy this type of content, please consider supporting us on Patreon. We have a few awesome rewards, and you get access to our great Discord community. We plan on churning out one League Champion build every week. Thanks for watching, and hopefully we'll catch you on the Rift, or in the Forgotten Realms.